My name is Mark, and this is the story of how my life and perspectives on marriage were forever altered. But first, let me provide some context. I'm a fairly successful 29-year-old living in Los Angeles. I studied accounting in college before working my way up at an advertising firm for 3 years. By 30, I had started my own marketing company. Business was good. I was gaining valuable experience, making connections, and growing my savings. On the eve of my 29th birthday, my net worth totaled just over $220,000. Remember that figure, as it will become a key factor in the events to come. To celebrate the big 2-9, I decided to rent a cottage and throw a party for about 20 friends and family. When the day arrived, 23 people showed up, including a handful of unfamiliar faces who tagged along with my friends. The festivities were in full swing when a surprising guest arrived, an ice cream truck, driven by my best buddy Joe. "Mark!" he shouted, hopping out of the vehicle. "This day will be remembered forever, because from now on, your life will be sweet." Laughing, we ran towards each other and embraced. Joe proceeded to serve up every ice cream concoction imaginable to the delighted partygoers right there in the yard. Amidst the excitement, I noticed an attractive woman I didn't recognize chatting with some friends by the pool. Slender with dark hair, she looked to be in her mid-20s. I made my way over to introduce myself. "Hi there, I'm Mark," I said, extending a hand. "Thanks for coming to celebrate with me." "Sarah," she replied with a warm smile, shaking my hand. "Happy birthday. Your friends Jenna and Michael brought me along. I hope that's okay. This is quite the party." "Of course, the more the merrier." "So how do you know Jenna and Michael?" I asked. Sarah and I slipped into easy conversation, eventually finding ourselves alone as the other guests mingled. We talked and laughed for hours, the birthday festivities fading into the background. I was captivated by her quick wit and the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke about her passions. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, the flirtation between us grew more obvious. "Well, birthday boy," Sarah said, flashing a coy smile, "this has been fun. How about you be a good boy and I'll ask you out on a proper date?" Yeah, that would be great," I stammered, taken aback by her forwardness, but thrilled at the prospect. She entered her number into my phone with a wink. "Talk to you soon, Mark." The guests started to trickle out, wishing me a final happy birthday before departing. I couldn't wipe the goofy grin off my face. Joe threw an arm around my shoulders as we waved people off. "Seems like you really hit it off with that Sarah girl," he said, waggling his eyebrows suggestively. "Think you'll see her again?" "I hope so, man. I really hope so." I had a feeling this could be the start of something special. Just as Sarah had promised, a text from her lit up my phone the very next day. "Hey, birthday boy, how about that date? I'm thinking dinner on Friday if you're free. Let me know." My heart leaped as I typed back my enthusiastic response. Little did I know, accepting that date would lead to a whirlwind romance, an extravagant wedding, and ultimately, the most devastating betrayal and disillusionment of my life. But in that moment, I was blissfully optimistic, eagerly anticipating what the future might hold with this intriguing new woman. Over the next 2 years, Sarah and I grew increasingly close. Our first date led to a second, then a third, and soon we were spending most of our free time together. "I've never felt this way about anyone before," Sarah confessed to me one evening as we lounged on my couch, her head resting on my chest. "You just understand me in a way no one else ever has. I can be completely myself with you." Before we tied the knot, Sarah and I lived together in my high-rise apartment in downtown Los Angeles. But now that we were newlyweds, I wanted us to have a place that truly belonged to us. A house where we could put down roots and maybe even start a family someday. "What do you think about moving to the suburbs?" I asked Sarah one lazy Sunday morning as we lay in bed. "We could get a nice house with a yard, maybe a bit more room to grow." Sarah rolled over to face me, a slow smile spreading across her face. "I think that sounds perfect. Let's start looking." The next few weeks were a flurry of browsing listings and attending open houses until we finally found the one. It was a beautiful 2-story with a spacious backyard and plenty of room for us to make it our own. We put in an offer immediately and celebrated its acceptance with champagne. Moving day was chaos, but the best kind. Our friends and family came to help, filling our new home with laughter and love. As I watched Sarah directing everyone where to put boxes, her face flushed with excitement, I felt a sense of contentment wash over me. This was the beginning of our forever, and at first, it was bliss. We settled into a comfortable routine, learning to share space and compromise as husband and wife. In the evenings, we cooked dinner together, dancing around each other in the kitchen to soft music. On weekends, we tackled home improvement projects or explored our new neighborhood hand in hand. But then, about 6 months after we moved in, something shifted. It started with Sarah stumbling upon my savings account while helping me organize some financial documents. "Wow, Mark," she said, her eyes widening as she looked at the screen. "I had no idea you had this much saved up. What are you planning to do with all of it?" I shrugged, feeling a bit uncomfortable discussing my finances so openly. "I don't really have any specific plans. I guess I just like knowing it's there as a safety net. And maybe someday, if we have a kid, it could help with their college or something." Something funny flashed across Sarah's face, like a flicker of disappointment mixed with something else I couldn't quite catch. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by a neutral smile. "Of course, that makes sense. It's smart to be prepared for the future." She dropped the subject after that, but I couldn't shake the feeling that my answer had somehow bothered her. As the weeks went by, Sarah started bringing up my savings more and more frequently. "I was thinking," she said one evening over dinner casually, "maybe we could use some of that money to take a really amazing vacation. We deserve to splurge on ourselves, don't you think?" I hesitated, my gut telling me to be cautious. "I don't know, Sar. I like having that safety cushion there for emergencies or long-term goals. A big trip would put a significant dent in it." Sarah pouted, pushing food around her plate. "I guess you're right. It was a silly idea anyway." But I could tell she was upset, and felt a twinge of guilt for disappointing her. Maybe I was being too uptight about the money. What was the point of having it if we didn't enjoy it? As it turned out, that was just the beginning. Over the next few months, Sarah's spending habits seemed to shift drastically. Suddenly, our home was filled with new gadgets, designer clothes, and high-end cosmetics. At first, I assumed she was just indulging a bit with her own money, but when I asked about it, Sarah claimed she had taken on a side gig, managing social media for a blogger friend. "It's amazing how much extra cash it brings in," she gushed, showing off a new handbag that must have cost upwards of $1,000. "I'm so glad I can contribute more to our lifestyle now." Something about her explanation didn't sit right with me, but I didn't want to accuse her of anything without proof. And if I'm being honest, part of me enjoyed seeing her so happy and carefree. I told myself I was worrying about nothing. This went on until the day I logged into my savings account and discovered that a significant chunk of it was missing. Specifically, $50,000 had been withdrawn without my knowledge or consent. My heart raced as I stared at the screen in disbelief. It had to be a mistake. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. With shaking hands, I picked up the phone and called the bank, hoping for some logical explanation. But when the representative on the other end confirmed the withdrawal, and my worst fears, a sickening realization washed over me. There was only one person who could have done this. Sarah, my wife. The woman I loved and trusted more than anyone in the world. She had stolen from me. I felt like I was going to be sick. How could she do this to me? To us? I thought back to all those times she had brought up my savings, all the frivolous spending that had suddenly cropped up. Had our entire marriage been a lie? A ploy to gain access to my money? I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was staring me right in the face. With a heavy heart and a growing sense of rage, I confronted Sarah that evening. $50,000, Sarah, I said, my voice shaking with a mixture of fury and betrayal. That's how much is missing from my savings account, the account only you and I have access to. So I'm going to ask you this once, and I need the truth. Did you take that money? Sarah's face paled, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered. Why would I do something like that? Don't lie to me, I shouted, slamming my fist on the counter. I trusted you, Sarah. I gave you everything. And this is how you repay me, by stealing from me. Tears streamed down her face, but I couldn't tell if they were genuine or just another manipulation. Mark, please, you have to believe me. I would never do that to you. It must be some mistake. I shook my head, feeling my heart shatter into a million pieces. The only mistake was me ever trusting you. Without another word, Sarah grabbed her purse and ran out the front door, sobbing. I collapsed into a kitchen chair, my head in my hands as the weight of her betrayal crashed over me in waves. How could I have been so blind, so naive? I considered going after her, demanding real answers. But what was the point, honestly? The truth was clear. My wife, the love of my life, had used me for my money, and now I was left to pick up the pieces of the life she had destroyed. Calling Joe, needing someone to talk to before I completely lost it. He came over with a bottle of whiskey and listened sympathetically as I poured out my grief and anger. "I just don't understand," I said, my words slightly slurred as the alcohol took effect. "I loved her so much, Joe. I would have given her anything she wanted. Why did she have to steal from me? Why wasn't I enough?" Joe sighed, patting my shoulder. "This isn't your fault, Mark. Sarah made her choice, and it was a selfish and cruel one. You deserve so much better." "I thought she was my forever," I whispered, hot tears pricking at my eyes. "I really thought we were going to build a life together." "I know, buddy, I know." Joe topped off my glass generously. "But you'll get through this. You're strong, and you have a lot of people who care about you. We'll help you put the pieces back together." I nodded, grateful for his support even as my world crumbled around me. He was right. I would survive this. But I knew I would never be the same. Sarah had broken something vital in me, and I wasn't sure I would ever be able to fully repair it. I guess that's the risk we take when we open our hearts to someone. We give them the power to lift us up or to destroy us. And sometimes, they choose the latter. Sitting there sipping whiskey, I made a vow to myself. Never again would I allow myself to be so vulnerable, so trusting. From now on, I would guard my heart and my assets with everything I had. Love had proven to be a luxury I couldn't afford. Little did I know, my nightmare was far from over. The next morning, after pouring my heart out to Joe, I woke up with a pounding headache and a new sense of determination. I went to our house wanting to talk to Sarah calmly, but when I arrived, I saw this picture. My wife was cheating on me with some guy. There was shitty rap playing and a lot of drinking. I couldn't stand being treated like this. The person to whom I had dedicated half my life was with me only because of money. I was shouting her name all over the house. The guy who was on top of her ran out to the backyard through the second entrance. I walked up to Sarah and slapped her on the cheek. She begged me to forgive her, saying that I misunderstood everything. And here's the question. What did I misunderstand when I saw all this? I was running around the house like a madman, which is not like me. All her things were either lying on the street or lying torn around the house. I threw her suitcase by the front door and told her to get out. She was already crying hysterically, swearing to get revenge on me as she left. I couldn't let Sarah's betrayal destroy me. I had to take steps to regain control of my life. I started by calling my bank and freezing all my accounts, ensuring no money could be drained without my explicit consent. Then I reached out to my lawyer friend, explained the situation, and asked for his advice on how to proceed. "I'm so sorry this is happening to you, Mark," he said, his voice full of sympathy. "But you're doing the right thing by tackling this head on. The first step will be filing for divorce and beginning the process of legally untangling your assets." At the word divorce, I felt a sharp pain in my chest. Even after everything Sarah had done, part of me still desperately wanted to believe we could somehow fix this, that she would come back, apologize, and we could go back to how things were. But deep down, I knew that was impossible. The trust between us had been shattered beyond repair. And if I was being honest with myself, our relationship had been built on lies from the very beginning. So with a heavy heart, I began the painful process of dismantling the life Sarah and I had built together. I filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and presenting evidence of her financial infidelity. I moved out of the dream home we had shared, unable to bear the memories lurking in every corner. For a while, it seemed like the worst was behind me. Sarah didn't contest the divorce, and my lawyer assured me I had a strong case for recovering the money she had stolen. I threw myself into work, putting in long hours at the office and taking on new clients to keep my mind occupied. But just when I thought I was starting to heal and move on, the other shoe dropped. It was a regular Tuesday when I got the call from the downtown police station. The officer on the line informed me that Sarah had filed a report against me, alleging domestic violence throughout our entire marriage. She was pressing charges and seeking a restraining order. It felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Domestic violence? It was ludicrous. I had never once raised a hand to Sarah, never even raised my voice at her. This was clearly an attempt at retaliation, a way to cause me even more pain than she already had. But as I soon discovered, the court of public opinion doesn't always care about the truth. Sarah played the victim masterfully, sobbing on the witness stand and spinning fabricated tales of my supposed cruelty. Even friends came forward in her defense, corroborating her lies with feigned concern. I watched in horror as my reputation crumbled before my eyes. Clients began pulling their accounts, not wanting to be associated with an alleged abuser. Friends I had known for years started to distance themselves, unsure who to believe. Even my own family looked at me differently, doubt flickering in their eyes. I felt utterly alone, like I was drowning in a sea of false accusations and judgmental stares. The only thing keeping me afloat was my fierce determination to clear my name and expose Sarah for the liar she was. Thankfully, the truth was on my side. My lawyer worked tirelessly to debunk Sarah's claims, presenting evidence of my character and lack of any history of violence. Eventually, the judge dismissed the charges against me, stating there was insufficient evidence to support Sarah's allegations. But the damage was done. My once thriving business had taken a nosedive, my savings depleted from legal fees and lost income. The people I thought I could count on had turned their backs on me, leaving me alone to pick up the shattered pieces of my ruined life. Through it all, the only thing that kept me going was my anger. Anger at Sarah for her lies and manipulation. Anger at myself for being so blind to her true nature. And anger at a world that seemed all too willing to believe the worst about me with no real proof. I channeled that anger into rebuilding my life. I started a new company, smaller in scale, but more streamlined, focusing on the clients who had stood by me through this ordeal. I sold the house Sarah and I had shared, using the proceeds to pay off debts and start fresh in a modest apartment across town. Slowly but surely, I began piecing myself back together. It wasn't easy, and there were days when the pain and betrayal felt as sharp as ever. But I refused to let Sarah win, to let her completely destroy me. In the end, I emerged stronger, wiser, and warier than ever before. I had learned the hard way that trust is a fragile thing, easily shattered by those looking to take advantage, and I vowed to never make the same mistake again. Looking back, I realized my story is a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the most picture-perfect relationships can hide dark secrets beneath the surface, that people are capable of unimaginable cruelty, especially when money and revenge are at stake. But it's also a story of resilience, of the incredible ability of the human spirit to endure and overcome even the deepest of wounds. I may never fully heal from what Sarah did to me, but I refuse to let it define me. I am more than the sum of my scars. I am a survivor, and I will never again allow anyone to break me. So to anyone out there experiencing a similar betrayal, know this: you are not alone. You are stronger than you think. And no matter how dark the road ahead may seem, there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Keep moving forward, even when every step feels like a battle. Keep holding on to your truth, even when the world tries to convince you otherwise. And most importantly, keep believing in yourself, even when it seems like no one else does. Because in the end, that's all we really have. Our own inner strength, our unshakable sense of self-worth. It's what got me through the darkest chapters of my life, and it's what will get you through yours. So hold your head high, even when your heart feels heavy. Keep putting one foot in front of the other, even if the path is unclear. And never ever let anyone dim your light.